I'm Jacqueline. A couple of years ago, I worked for Hassett Hardware Run Operations, and we took over the hardware store John worked at. You guys were actually on a cruise, so he came back very confused with an entire new crew there, and we were ripping everything out, and he came in and immediately just assessed the situation. So I got to meet him, and within the first day or two, he actually was bringing me up for a water, and he asked what I was under in the computer. And since I was 20, I've been under Princess, and he was taken aback. And he said, "I'm married to a princess." And I said, "Oh, well, of course." And it was so sweet. He was so excited. He said, "You have to meet Ruthie." And I said, "Well, you don't have to, call me Princess, obviously." And then he told me he always respected a title, so he called me Princess every time he saw me on the sales floor, in offices, and it was always fun, and he had a nice story, and it was always a pleasure to get his opinion, because, as we were ripping everything out, he would kind of walk around, and you could tell if he approved or disapproved. He wouldn't say it, but you could tell, and you had to kind of prompt him to, let it out, and he normally would. But after we had already done something he didn't agree with, so we redid a couple of things thanks to him. But he was wonderful, and our whole team absolutely loved him. And obviously, as we took over and anyone found out he worked for the FBI, we had staff coming from our other stores immediately wanting to meet him, ask questions, probably harass him. But we were so grateful, and I was so lucky to meet Ruthie. And he is deeply missed. We still have customers asking. We have our staff that misses him, but Ruthie is always part of our family, so we feel very lucky.
Hi, I'm Cameron. I worked with John before Hassett took over, so I knew him for a little bit longer than they did, but he was just always so kind and nice, and every morning I would go in and say, "Hello, how are you?" Sorry, I'm an emotional person, but I just remember that on one of his last trips that Ruthie and him went on, they went to Antarctica, and he was explaining to me before he left, how excited he was to travel, and it was a bucket list place for him to be. And I was like, "John, you're crazy. Why are you going to Antarctica? What is there? There's penguins?" And he was like, "Yeah, exactly. I just want to go see a different place in the world." And so I think that to me was very inspiring, that even in his older age, going to Antarctica, I could never imagine going there, but he was just always a smile on his face as soon as I walked into the store and say good morning, and he was like, "How are you doing?" Making sure we were all good and happy, and very sad to see him go, but thank you.
Okay, now,